Along the edge of California's coastline, where the land drops suddenly into the endless black of the Pacific Ocean, there are roads that were never meant to be driven after dark. Winding cliff roads carved into stone. Narrow paths with no guardrails. Highways where the ocean waits far below, unseen but always present. By day, these roads offer beauty beyond words. By night, they offer something else. Drivers report headlights appearing behind them and vanishing without sound. Voices coming through rolled-up windows. Some roads are said to replay fatal accidents over and over. Others are believed to be built on cursed land. And a few are whispered to lead travelers somewhere they were never meant to go. Tonight, we drive the darkest stretches of California's coast. Along roads where the fog remembers every scream. Where the cliffs still echo with the sound of falling metal. And where turning back may not always be possible. Hello, my dear friend. I am truly glad you are here with me tonight. Because what we are about to explore lies between beauty and terror, between ocean and stone, and between life and sudden death. California's coastal cliff roads are legendary. They twist along mountains. They hang above crashing waves. They feel endless when the fog rolls in. For decades, travelers have shared stories of strange encounters along these routes. Cold spots inside warm cars. The smell of salt and smoke where there should be none. The feeling of being watched from the passenger seat. Some say these roads remember tragedy. Some believe spirits are bound to the cliffs where they fell. Others insist something older than humanity lives where land meets sea. Before we begin, let me ask you something. If you were driving alone along a cliff road at night, and you saw a figure standing in the fog ahead, would you stop to help or would you keep driving and never look back? Tell me what you would do in the comments. Now, take a slow breath. Grip the steering wheel. And let us begin the journey along the most haunted coastal cliff roads in California. Broken Guardrail Road winds through a narrow stretch of hills where the land drops away sharply on one side. Trees press close to the pavement, their branches arching overhead like a tunnel. During the day, the road feels ordinary, a quiet connector between small towns. At night, it becomes something drivers remember long after they pass through. The guardrail curves along the outer edge of the road, following the bend precisely. Maintenance records show repeated replacements, always in the same short section. The damage is consistent. Bent metal. Deep scrapes. Posts twisted out of alignment. There is no record of a major crash. Minor accidents have occurred along the road, but none severe enough to explain the repeated destruction. Weather conditions do not account for it. No flooding. No rock slides. The repairs are completed, inspected, and approved. Within months, sometimes weeks, the same section fails again. Locals stopped questioning it years ago. They simply refer to it as Broken Guardrail Road, a name that appears on no official map but is used by everyone who drives it regularly. Newcomers learn the name quickly, usually after their first unsettling trip through the bend. Drivers report hearing metal scraping beside their cars. The sound arrives suddenly, sharp and unmistakable. It runs parallel to the vehicle, matching speed and position. Most assume they clipped the guardrail. They slow down or pull over, hearts racing, expecting to see fresh damage. When they look, the guardrail is untouched. No new dents. No displaced bolts. No sign of contact at all. Their vehicles show no marks either. The sound does not repeat immediately. It happens once per pass, always near the same bend. Shadows shift quickly as the road curves. The scraping sound feels louder, closer, as if something is running directly alongside the car, just beyond the reach of light. Several drivers have described the same instinctive reaction. Night amplifies the effect. Headlights carve narrow paths through the trees. They glance toward the passenger side, expecting to see sparks or twisted metal. Instead, they see darkness and trees. The guardrail remains straight, smooth, unchanged. The road continues as if nothing happened. No one has ever seen the guardrail move. Despite the repeated damage, there are no eyewitness accounts of it breaking in real time. Repairs are found damaged after the fact. The metal appears stressed inward, as if struck from the roadside rather than impacted by a vehicle leaving the lane. Engineers examined the site multiple times. They tested soil stability. They measured vibration from traffic. They reinforced the posts and adjusted the angle of installation. Each solution held briefly, then failed in the same way. The damage stops abruptly at the same boundary every time. Audio recordings have been attempted. Microphones placed near the guardrail capture wind, insects, passing cars. They never record the scraping sound as drivers report it. Even when a driver hears it clearly and immediately flags the time, the recordings show nothing unusual. Those who live nearby offer quiet explanations. They say the road remembers impact. That something struck there long ago, hard enough to leave an impression that never faded. According to these stories, the sound is not happening now. It is repeating. Old records mention an accident decades earlier. Details are vague. A late night. Poor visibility. A vehicle that never fully left the road but did not stay on it either. No major investigation followed. No memorial was placed. The road was repaired, and traffic resumed. After that, the guardrail began breaking. Drivers who experienced the sound often report lingering unease. For several miles afterward, they feel watched, alert in a way that does not fade immediately. Some turn off radios. Others grip the wheel tighter without realizing it. It arrives only when least expected, always brief, always precise. They slow down, windows open, listening closely. During daylight, broken guardrail road offers no hints. The bend looks manageable. Visibility is fair. The guardrail shows signs of repair, but nothing dramatic. Passing through during the day rarely triggers reports, though a small number of drivers claim to hear a faint version of the sound even under bright sun. Most incidents occur at dusk or after dark. The transition seems important. As light fades, depth becomes harder to judge. The line between road and drop feels thinner. Drivers become more aware of the edge, even without consciously thinking about it. Maintenance crews dislike working there. They report discomfort, a sense of pressure that builds the longer they stand near the damaged section. Tools vibrate faintly in their hands. Some say the metal feels warmer than expected, even in cold weather. No one has been injured during repairs. The road has never collapsed. This makes the phenomenon easier to ignore, easier to dismiss. Yet the repairs continue. Each time the guardrail is replaced, the same question returns. Why here? Why this exact stretch? Why the sound without contact? Drivers who hear the scraping often describe one more detail. They say the sound feels intentional, not random. It keeps pace perfectly, neither falling behind nor surging ahead. It stays with the car just long enough to be noticed, then stops cleanly, as if released. Afterward, the road feels empty again. Trees return to shadows. Tires hum against pavement. The guardrail stands silent and intact. Nothing appears out of place. Broken guardrail road remains open. No signs warn drivers. No barriers redirect traffic. The road continues to function as intended, carrying vehicles safely through the hills day after day. But the bend remembers. Metal breaks where it always has. Drivers hear what they hear. The sound leaves no mark, yet it lingers in memory, sharp and unmistakable. Those who pass through often glance toward the edge long after the road is behind them, listening for a sound that never comes again. And the guardrail waits, repaired once more, standing straight and silent. Until the next driver reaches the bend and hears metal scraping where nothing touches at all. Davila South Spine Road cuts across a sheer cliff face where the mountain falls away into open air. The road is narrow, carved directly into stone, with no room for error and little margin for comfort. One side presses against rough rock walls. The other drops sharply into space, protected only by a low barrier that feels inadequate the moment you see it. From the start, the road feels wrong. Locals say it was built too close to the edge, rushed through without respect for the terrain. Old planning documents show concerns raised and ignored. The mountain was considered stable enough, the cost of moving the road inward too high. Construction went forward, and Davila South Spine Road opened to traffic with little ceremony. During daylight, the danger is obvious but manageable. Drivers move slowly, eyes fixed ahead. The cliff face looms close enough to scrape mirrors. Wind moves unpredictably, rising from below in sudden bursts that rock vehicles just enough to remind drivers how little separates them from the drop. Even then, most people pass through without incident. Night changes everything. Headlights illuminate only a short stretch of pavement before darkness swallows the rest. The cliff wall reflects light unevenly, creating shifting shapes that feel closer than they are. The barrier on the outer edge disappears into shadow. It is at night that the taillights appear. Drivers report seeing a vehicle ahead, its red lights glowing faintly around a bend. The road is too narrow to pass, so drivers slow down naturally, matching the pace of the unseen car ahead. They remain just ahead, always visible, always moving. Curves straighten. Some drivers follow for several minutes, convinced they are part of a slow procession along the cliff. Then the lights vanish. Not around a corner. Not over a rise. They disappear instantly, leaving only empty road and darkness. No engine sound fades. No vehicle pulls away. The space ahead is suddenly clear and unsettlingly quiet. Drivers often brake hard at this point. The sudden absence creates disorientation. Depth perception falters. The road feels narrower than before. Several drivers have reported needing to pull over to steady themselves, heart racing, hands shaking on the wheel. Heart racing, hands shaking on the wheel. Hands shaking on the wheel. The road feels narrower than before. The sudden absence creates disorientation. Depth perception falters. Those who pull over experience something worse. The road feels narrower than before. Several drivers have reported needing to pull over to steady themselves, heart racing, hands shaking on the wheel. Hands shaking on the wheel. The road feels narrower than before. The sudden absence creates disorientation. Depth perception falters. Those who pull over experience something worse. The road feels narrower than before. Standing outside the vehicle, the wind feels heavier, pressing inward from the open side of the road. The cliff face blocks sound, causing the air to rush and echo unpredictably. It is here that people report the sensation of hands. They feel pressure against their backs or shoulders. Not a shove, not forceful, but steady and deliberate. A guiding pressure that urges them closer to the edge. Those who experience it describe the sensation as unmistakably intentional, as if something is testing balance rather than trying to cause harm. The pressure stops the moment they step away from the edge. Drivers retreat to their vehicles quickly, often without looking back. The feeling does not return. The road ahead looks unchanged, but the urge to leave the area becomes overwhelming. The experience is entirely physical, brief, and deeply unsettling. Many who feel it never stop on the road again. Accident records for Devil's Spine Road are surprisingly limited. There are incidents, but fewer than expected given the terrain. Most involve minor collisions or vehicles stopping suddenly without impact. No clear pattern explains the number of near misses reported by drivers who never officially filed reports. Maintenance crews dislike working there. They report dizziness near the edge and an uneasy sensation of being off balance even on level ground. Tools left near the barrier are sometimes found moved slightly by morning, closer to the drop than where they were placed. Wind alone does not explain the movement. Engineers have evaluated the barrier multiple times. It meets safety standards. It shows no signs of structural failure. Reinforcements have been added over the years, yet the feeling of vulnerability remains unchanged. Locals offer their own explanations. They say the road follows the natural spine of the mountain, a line of tension where stone presses outward against empty space. According to these stories, the mountain never accepted the cut. The road exists there, but it does not belong. Some believe the taillights are echoes. They say vehicles once traveled the road more recklessly, pushing limits until the mountain responded. The lights, they suggest, are reminders, slowing drivers down just enough to prevent worse outcomes. Others believe the hands are warnings. Not meant to push people over, but to show how little separates safety from falling. A lesson delivered gently, but clearly, to those who forget where they are. Drivers who experience either phenomenon report lasting effects. They become cautious on cliff roads. Heights feel different. The memory of following lights into nothingness lingers, resurfacing unexpectedly. Some avoid the road entirely afterward, choosing longer routes without hesitation. Attempts to document the events have failed. Dash cameras record empty road. No taillights appear on footage. Audio captures only wind and engine noise. Motion sensors detect nothing unusual near the barrier. The experiences remain personal. Each driver encounters the road alone, even when traveling with passengers who notice nothing. The phenomena choose moments of isolation, when attention is focused forward and fear has room to grow. Devil's Spine Road remains open. Warning signs mention sharp turns and narrow lanes, but nothing more. Tourists drive it during the day, taking photos of the view and marveling at the engineering. At night, traffic thins. Those who know the stories drive slowly. They keep their distance from any lights ahead. They do not pull over unless absolutely necessary. They stay centered in the lane and leave the road as soon as possible. The mountain remains unchanged. Stone holds firm. The cliff drops away silently. Wind rises from below and moves along the spine, unseen but constant. Drivers pass through, one by one, carrying their own stories with them. Some will see the taillights and slow down, guided by something that never arrives. Some will feel the gentle pressure near the edge and understand immediately what it means. And some will experience nothing at all, never knowing how close they came to noticing the road pushing back. Devil's South Spine Road clings to the cliff as it always has, narrow and unforgiving, a place where the boundary between movement and falling feels thin enough to touch. And for those who travel it after dark, the road remembers every car that passes, watching quietly, waiting for the next set of lights to appear and disappear into the night. Wittawa's Turn Highway cuts through a stretch of low hills where the land folds tightly around the road. The pavement narrows as it approaches a sharp curve, banking slightly but not enough to inspire confidence. Warning signs line the shoulder, their paint faded by years of sun and rain. Even in daylight, the turn demands attention. The curve earned its name long before modern traffic data existed. Early records speak of wagons overturning, of riders misjudging the bend and leaving the road entirely. As vehicles became faster, the incidents multiplied. Skid marks darkened the asphalt. Guardrails were replaced again and again. Still, accidents continued. This sharp curve has claimed countless lives. Officials cite poor visibility and excessive speed. The approach is deceptively straight, encouraging drivers to relax just before the road tightens abruptly. At night, headlights flatten depth and hide the true angle until it is almost too late. But statistics do not explain the stories. After sunset, drivers report seeing a woman in white standing near the bend. She appears just beyond the warning signs, close enough to notice but far enough to question. Her clothing reflects headlights faintly, pale against the dark hillside. She stands still, facing the road, her posture calm and upright. Those who see her describe the same reaction. A jolt of confusion, followed by instinct. Some break immediately, heart pounding. Others hesitate, unsure if what they are seeing is real. If you slow down, she disappears. Drivers who reduce speed report that the figure fades as they approach the curve. She does not step away or turn. She simply becomes less distinct until there is nothing there at all. The road clears. The bend passes without incident. Many pull over afterward, shaken but unharmed. If you speed up, she appears in your rearview mirror. Those who accelerate, either out of disbelief or fear, describe a different experience. As they exit the turn and glance into the mirror, they see her again, standing in the lane behind them. She appears closer than expected, her pale form steady despite the car pulling away. The sight lasts only a moment. Drivers instinctively check their speed, their mirrors, their surroundings. When they look again, the road behind them is empty. The woman is gone. The sense of being followed lingers far longer than the image itself. Reports of this encounter stretch back decades. Long before smartphones and dash cameras, people told the same story in the same words. A woman in white. A woman in white. The curve. The choice to slow or speed. The outcome changing based on that decision. No two descriptions of her face are the same. Some say they cannot see her features clearly. Others recall a neutral expression, neither sad nor threatening. What remains consistent is her stillness. She never waves. She never calls out. She simply stands, present and silent. Local history offers fragments but no confirmation. One story speaks of a young woman who lost her husband in a crash at the turn, returning night after night to wait for him. Records do not align cleanly with either account. Accidents decreased slightly after new signage and barriers were installed, but reports of sightings did not. In fact, as traffic slowed due to construction, sightings seemed to increase. Those who encounter her rarely speak publicly. Many share their experience only with close friends or family. The memory feels personal, almost private, as if meant only for the one who saw her. Some avoid the highway entirely afterward, choosing longer routes without complaint. Emergency responders know the curve well. They speak of a quiet tension when calls come in after dark. Not fear, but focus. Several responders have admitted, off record, to seeing a pale figure near the bend while en route, gone by the time they arrived. Attempts to capture the figure have failed. Dash cameras show empty shoulders. Security cameras installed temporarily during roadwork recorded nothing unusual. Even when a driver reports seeing her clearly moments before, footage reveals only darkness and passing headlights. The experience resists documentation. Drivers often describe a strange clarity during the encounter. Time feels slowed. The choice to brake or accelerate feels heavier than usual, as if carrying weight beyond the moment. Those who slow down report relief afterward, mixed with lingering unease. Those who speed up report regret. Not because anything happens immediately, but because the image in the mirror stays with them. Some describe recurring dreams of the turn, the mirror, the pale figure standing closer each time. Others develop an aversion to mirrors at night, checking them compulsively. The highway itself offers no answers. By day, Widow's Turn looks ordinary. The curve is sharp but manageable. The shoulder is wide enough to pull over safely. There is no marker or memorial to explain the name. Traffic flows steadily, unaware of the stories tied to the asphalt. At dusk, the atmosphere shifts subtly. Light fades unevenly across the hills. Shadows pool near the bend. The road feels narrower, the curve more pronounced. Drivers unfamiliar with the area often slow instinctively, sensing the change without knowing why. Locals say the turn watches. They say it does not chase or trap. It offers a moment of decision. Slow down and pass through safely. Rush forward and carry the reminder with you. In this telling, the woman is not a threat, but a measure of attention. Some believe she appears only to those already at risk. Fatigued drivers. Distracted drivers. Those pushing speed limits. According to this idea, she is drawn to imbalance, revealing herself when caution is needed most. Others believe she appears randomly, indifferent to circumstance. The truth remains unclear. What is certain is that Widow's Turn Highway continues to claim attention long after most roads are forgotten. Its curve demands respect. Night after night, drivers approach the bend carrying their own pace, their own choices. Some will see nothing and pass through without thought. Some will glimpse a pale figure near the shoulder and slow down, never fully understanding why they did. And some will accelerate, only to see her again in the mirror, standing where no one should be, reminding them that the road noticed their decision. Widow's Turn remains where it has always been, a simple curve in the dark, waiting quietly for the next set of headlights to approach and decide how to move through. Fogline Pass cuts across a high saddle of rock where the mountain narrows and the road clings to a shallow shelf. On clear days, the view stretches for miles, valleys opening on either side like open hands. The pavement is worn smooth by years of traffic and weather, marked with reflective paint that glows faintly at night. It looks ordinary. It does not feel ordinary. Fog appears here without warning. Drivers describe the moment as sudden and complete. 1 second the road is visible, the next it vanishes. The fog does not roll in or drift. It rises all at once, thick and close, swallowing headlights and sound. Visibility drops to nothing, not a few feet or a car length, but nothing at all. Those who experience it instinctively slow down. Engines idle. Tires hiss softly against damp pavement. The world shrinks to the interior of the vehicle, the glow of the dashboard, the rhythm of breathing. Outside, the fog presses against glass like a curtain drawn tight. The pass is known for unpredictable weather, yet this fog behaves differently. Forecasts miss it entirely. The fog appears in calm air as often as during storms. It does not follow temperature changes or time of day. It arrives, holds, then lifts as suddenly as it came. While the fog holds, drivers hear footsteps. The sound is faint at first, a soft crunch or tap outside the car. It moves slowly, circling, sometimes stopping near the doors. The footsteps do not match gravel or leaves. They sound deliberate, measured, like someone walking carefully in low visibility. Most drivers remain inside. They lock their doors, hands tight on the wheel, listening. Some call for help, only to find their signal weak or gone. The footsteps continue, never hurried, never close enough to touch the vehicle, yet near enough to be unmistakable. No one has ever seen who makes them. Looking out the windows reveals only fog, dense and blank. Headlights illuminate nothing but white. Side mirrors show no movement. The sound exists without a visible source. Then come the whispers. They are not loud. They do not shout. Drivers describe them as soft and directional. As if spoken close to the ear but not inside the car. The fog seems to carry the sound, shaping it into something almost understandable. Some claim the fog whispers directions. They hear suggestions rather than commands. A word that sounds like forward. A pause that feels like turn. The voices do not repeat themselves clearly. They hint. They guide. They never identify themselves. What unsettles drivers most is where the directions lead. Those who follow the whispered guidance, even slightly, find themselves closer to the edge of the road. Tires drift toward the shoulder. The ground slopes away subtly. The sense of space changes, as if the road is narrowing without actually moving. Drivers who resist the whispers describe physical discomfort. Headaches build. Ears ring. Concentration becomes difficult. The urge to move, to follow the sound, grows stronger the longer they remain still. Some describe a sense of pressure behind the eyes, easing only when the car rolls forward. Others choose to stop completely. They shut off the engine and wait. Time stretches. Minutes feel longer. The footsteps continue their slow circuit. The whispers fade, return, fade again. Eventually, the fog lifts, revealing the road exactly as it was. Those who wait often escape without incident. Those who move according to the whispers sometimes do not. Accident reports from Fogline Pass show a pattern of vehicles found near the edge, undamaged but dangerously positioned. Doors are closed. Lights are on. Drivers are shaken but unharmed, unable to explain how they ended up so close to the drop. In rarer cases, vehicles have left the road entirely. Investigations find no skid marks, no signs of sudden braking. The path suggests slow, deliberate movement rather than loss of control. Survivors of near misses describe following a sense of certainty that vanished the moment the fog cleared. Local maintenance crews avoid working the pass at night. They report hearing footsteps when visibility is clear, always just beyond the range of light. Tools left on the ground are sometimes found closer to the edge than where they were placed. Radios crackle with faint interference during fog events, though no voices are recorded. Attempts to study the phenomenon have failed. Cameras placed along the pass capture fog, then clear road. No figures appear. Audio equipment records wind and ambient noise, but no footsteps or whispers. Sensors detect no unusual movement near vehicles during reported incidents. The experience remains personal. Drivers describe it differently, yet the core details align. Sudden fog. Lost visibility. Lost visibility. Footsteps outside the car. Some say the pass follows an old trail where travelers once walked the ridge in heavy fog, relying on sound rather than sight. According to these stories, the land remembers paths taken in low visibility and offers them again without context. Others believe the fog creates false certainty. They say the mind fills the emptiness with direction, projecting order where none exists. In this view, the whispers are internal, shaped by fear and the need to move. Drivers who have experienced Fogline Pass reject simple answers. They speak of the fog as present, attentive, aware of hesitation. They say it responds to stillness with sound, to movement with pressure. The experience feels interactive, not random. The pass itself is deceptively gentle. The curve near the edge is shallow. The drop is not immediately visible even in clear weather. Reflective markers line the shoulder, designed to guide drivers safely through. During fog events, these markers vanish completely. Those who survive close calls often change their habits. They slow down at elevation. They avoid mountain passes at night. They trust visibility over instinct. Many describe a lingering discomfort with fog anywhere, even far from the mountains. Fogline Pass remains open. Warning signs mention sudden fog and reduced visibility, but nothing about footsteps or whispers. Traffic continues, most drivers pass through without incident, unaware of how quickly conditions can change. Those who encounter the fog remember it clearly. They remember the moment the world disappeared. The sound of footsteps pacing outside the car. The sense of direction offered without certainty. The edge drawing closer without being seen. When the fog lifts, the road looks harmless again. Sunlight returns. Distance reappears. The pass resumes its quiet presence, offering no sign of what just occurred. Fogline Pass waits for conditions to align. A car climbing too late. A driver trusting sound over sight. A moment of uncertainty shaped into guidance. And when the fog rises without warning, the pass listens, surrounds, and softly suggests a way forward. Leaving each driver to decide how close to the edge they are willing to go. Blackwater Cliff Drive traces a narrow line along a rugged coastline where stone rises sharply on one side and drops away into restless sea on the other. During the day, the road offers sweeping views of dark water stretching to the horizon. Waves crash far below, white foam breaking against black rock. At night, everything changes. The ocean below grows louder than possible. Even with windows closed, the sound pushes into the car, deep and layered, as if the water has risen closer than it should. Blackwater Cliff Drive has long been known as a difficult road. Sharp turns hug the edge. Guardrails are spaced carefully but feel too low when darkness hides the drop. Reflective markers guide drivers through the curves, their glow faint against the vastness of sea and sky. Locals avoid the road after sunset whenever possible. Those who must drive it do so quickly, eyes fixed ahead, resisting the urge to look down. They say the ocean behaves differently at night, not just louder, but closer, as if the distance between road and water shrinks when light fades. Drivers report hearing voices rising from the waves. At first, the sound blends with the surf, almost indistinguishable from wind and water. Then it sharpens. A syllable forms. A pause follows. The voice comes again, clearer, carried upward along the cliff face. The voices call drivers by name. Not shouted. Not urgent. Spoken calmly, as if from someone familiar waiting below. The sound slips through open windows and closed ones alike, seeming to bypass the barrier of glass and metal. Those who hear it describe the same shock. A sudden certainty that the voice is meant for them alone. Not for the car, not for the moment, but for the person behind the wheel. The name is spoken correctly, without hesitation, even when the driver has not been alone in days. Many drivers slow down instinctively. They lean forward, listening, heart pounding. Some glance toward the ocean, though the darkness reveals nothing but movement and shadow. The sound grows clearer when acknowledged, softer when ignored. No two voices sound the same. Some are male. Some female. Some familiar in tone without being recognizable. Others sound neutral, almost distant, as if shaped by water rather than lungs. What they share is intention. The voice does not drift randomly. It aims. Those who respond report a strong urge to pull over. The shoulder along Blackwater Cliff Drive is narrow, barely wide enough for a single vehicle. Still, some drivers stop, hazard lights blinking, unsure why they felt compelled to do so. Standing outside the car makes the sound stronger, louder, more precise. The ocean below feels impossibly close. Waves crash with a force that vibrates through the ground. Spray rises high enough to catch moonlight, forming brief, pale shapes before falling back into darkness. The voices seem to rise with each wave, timed perfectly to the movement of water. Drivers who remain outside too long describe dizziness. The sound becomes layered, voices overlapping, each one closer than the last. The sensation is not panic, but focus, a narrowing of attention toward the edge. Those who retreat to their cars quickly report immediate relief, though the memory lingers. Accident reports along the drive are difficult to explain. Vehicles have been found abandoned near the edge with doors closed and engines cold. In some cases, footprints lead toward the guardrail, stopping just short of it. In others, there are no tracks at all. Search efforts rarely find answers. The ocean below Blackwater Cliff Drive is deep and violent, its currents unpredictable. Debris disappears quickly. Sound travels upward strangely, distorted by rock and wind. Official explanations cite misjudgment, fatigue, or weather. Yet the voices continue. Fishermen working the waters below report hearing their names spoken from above on calm nights, though no one stands on the cliff. Hikers near the top hear faint replies rising from the waves, though the road is empty. Maintenance crews report equipment issues after dark. Radios pick up faint interference that sounds almost like speech. Tools vibrate when set near the edge. Some workers refuse night shifts along the drive, citing discomfort they cannot explain. Attempts to record the voices have failed. Audio equipment captures only surf and wind. No names appear on playback. Even when a driver hears the voice clearly and records immediately, the sound vanishes from the recording, leaving only background noise. Those who experience it often hesitate to speak openly. Saying your own name aloud after hearing it called feels strange, as if confirming something that should remain unspoken. Many choose silence, carrying the memory alone. They say the ocean here listens as much as it roars. They believe the cliff acts as a channel, carrying sound upward in ways that shape it into something more personal. According to these stories, the water remembers voices lost to it and repeats them when the road grows quiet enough to hear. Others believe the voices are reflections. They say fatigue and isolation cause the mind to reach for familiarity. In darkness, surrounded by vast sound, the brain supplies meaning where none exists. Yet this explanation falters when drivers hear names they rarely use or have not spoken in years. Those who continue to drive Blackwater Cliff Drive at night develop rituals. They keep windows closed. They play music softly to break the sound of waves. They avoid speaking their own names aloud. Most importantly, they do not stop. Drivers who ignore the voices report fewer encounters. The sound fades if attention is withheld. The road passes beneath the tires, curves unfolding as expected. The ocean remains loud, but less insistent. Distance slowly returns. Those who listen too closely describe a lasting change. They find themselves drawn to water, standing longer at shorelines, listening for patterns in waves. Some report hearing their names faintly even far from the coast, only to realize it was memory, not sound. Blackwater Cliff Drive remains open to traffic. By day, it is scenic and calm. By night, it becomes something else, a narrow passage suspended between stone and sea. The ocean below continues its relentless motion, louder than seems possible, shaping sound into suggestion. Drivers pass through carrying their own names, their own histories, unaware of how easily familiarity can be turned into invitation. Most reach the far end without incident. A few hear the voices and never forget them. And the ocean continues to rise and fall beneath the cliff, calling softly, patiently, knowing that someday, someone will listen long enough to answer. Raven Watch Road cuts through a quiet stretch of highland forest where the land feels older than the map that names it. The pavement is narrow and dark, bordered by trees that lean inward as if listening. No matter the season, no matter the weather, ravens gather along this road. They do not scatter when cars approach. They do not call out. They simply watch. Drivers notice the silence first. Forest roads usually hum with insects, wind, and distant birds. Here, sound feels reduced. Tires roll softly. Engines seem too loud. The ravens remain still, lined up with unsettling precision, facing the road as though expecting something to arrive. Most drivers pass through without stopping. They feel the weight of being observed and choose not to linger. But some slow down. Curiosity overrides instinct. They pull over to the shoulder, just for a moment, just to look. That is when the tapping begins. At first it sounds like falling debris. A soft, hollow knock against the roof of the car. One tap. Then another. Measured. Intentional. Drivers look up through the windshield, expecting to see movement above them. The ravens do not move. They remain perched where they were, heads angled downward, eyes fixed on the stopped vehicle. No wings lift. No claws scrape metal. Yet the tapping continues, traveling across the roof from front to back, as if something is walking just out of sight. Drivers report a deep vibration with each tap, felt more than heard. The sound carries through the frame of the car, into the chest. Some describe the rhythm as deliberate, almost thoughtful, pausing between taps as if waiting for a response. Instinct tells them to get out and look. To confirm what logic insists cannot be happening. Doors remain closed. Windows stay up. The ravens watch. Phones often lose signal here. Radios crackle with static. The road feels isolated in a way that is difficult to explain. Time stretches. Those who turn the engine off notice the tapping becomes clearer. It never grows frantic. It never grows loud. Simply persists. A calm pressure. A request without words. A calm pressure. Simply persists. Some drivers attempt to scare the birds away. They honk. Flash headlights. Rev the engine. The ravens do not react. They do not blink. Their stillness feels deliberate, almost respectful, as if acknowledging the effort while refusing to comply. When drivers finally pull back onto the road, the tapping stops immediately. Not gradually. Not fading. It ends the moment the tires begin to roll. In the rearview mirror, the ravens remain lined up, watching the car leave. Local residents avoid stopping on Raven Watch Road. They teach new drivers to keep moving, no matter how curious they feel. Stories circulate quietly, shared without drama. No one embellishes. They do not need to. Long ago, before the road was paved, the area served as a route for supply wagons moving through the highlands. Records mention repeated delays caused by large groups of birds blocking passage. Notes describe animals refusing to move forward, even when whipped or led by hand. The birds are not named. They are simply noted as present. Modern wildlife experts have attempted to explain the behavior. Ravens are intelligent. They gather. They remember faces. But no study accounts for the tapping, or the unwavering stillness, or the way the birds never take flight when a car stops among them. Maintenance crews report finding marks on vehicle roofs after stopping for inspections. The marks vanish within days, as if the metal itself relaxes back into place. Some believe the ravens are guardians. Others think they are witnesses. A few locals say the road remembers those who stopped for too long and did not leave the same way they arrived. No official reports confirm this. The road remains open. The ravens remain. Drivers who pass through at night say the tapping sounds closer then, sharper against the quiet. They keep their eyes forward. Hands steady on the wheel. They do not slow down. Raven Watch Road does not announce danger. There are no warning signs. No barriers. Nothing to suggest that stopping could be a mistake. The lesson is learned only through experience or passed along in careful conversation. The ravens never follow. They never chase. They do not need to. They remain where they are, patient and unmoving, as if the road itself has eyes. And the birds are only there to remind you. If you drive through and see them watching, do not wave. Do not stop. And whatever you hear on the roof above you, keep going. The highway curves along the coastline like a quiet ribbon, stretching between dark hills and an endless black sea. During the day it feels ordinary, almost forgettable, but after midnight it becomes something else entirely. Locals know it as Ghostlight Highway, a place where the road does not simply lead forward, but seems to invite pursuit. The first lights usually appear just after the last town fades behind. They hover low above the asphalt, pale and steady, never flickering like headlights or street lamps. Drivers describe them as soft orbs, drifting just beyond reach, always far enough ahead to remain unobtainable. They move at the same speed as the car, matching acceleration with unsettling precision. At first, the lights feel harmless. Curious, even calming. The ocean lies somewhere to the right, unseen but present, its breath carried inland on cool air. Radios lose signal here, leaving only the hum of tires and the distant crash of waves. Those who encounter the lights often believe they are reflections, drones, or distant boats seen through breaks in the cliffs. Reasonable explanation seems sufficient, at least at first. Yet the longer the lights remain ahead, the harder it becomes to look away. Eyes fix on their glow. Hands tighten on the steering wheel. An odd sensation settles in. A pressure behind the eyes. A growing impatience with the speedometer. Drivers report feeling late for something they cannot name. The road feels too slow, the engine too restrained. Even cautious drivers feel the urge to press harder on the accelerator, as if the lights are pulling them forward by invisible threads. The highway narrows as it approaches the coast. Guardrails become sporadic. Warning signs grow more frequent. Their reflective surfaces flashing briefly before vanishing into darkness. The lights drift onward, perfectly centered in the lane. Leading toward the sound of water growing louder with every mile. Some drivers resist the pull. They slow down, grip the wheel, force their eyes back to the road. When they do, the lights dim, as if disappointed. Others give in without realizing it. Speed creeps upward. The engine responds eagerly. The distance between the car and the lights never closes, yet the desire to reach them intensifies. Records show a pattern. Single vehicle accidents along this stretch occur almost exclusively after midnight. Skid marks often begin suddenly, without swerving or braking. An end where pavement gives way to open space. There are rarely signs of mechanical failure. Investigations conclude with the same quiet uncertainty. Survivors tell similar stories. They describe a moment of clarity, usually brought on by something small. A dashboard warning chime. A sudden gust of salt air through an open window. A glimpse of the ocean reflecting starlight far too close to the road. In that moment, the spell breaks. The lights surge forward and vanish. Dissolving into the dark as if they were never there. One retired patrol officer spent years monitoring the highway. He logged weather conditions, traffic flow, and moon phases, searching for a rational explanation. Over time, he noticed something unsettling. The lights appeared most often on nights when the sea was calm and the sky was clear, when there was nothing else demanding attention. He also noted the behavior of those who followed the lights longest. They were not reckless drivers. They were focused, attentive, almost serene. It was as if the lights did not provoke panic, but comfort. A quiet assurance that if one simply kept going, everything would make sense at the end of the road. Local folklore offers an older perspective. Long before asphalt and engines, fishermen spoke of wandering beacons along the cliffs. Lights that promised safe passage home, but led travelers away from familiar paths. The stories were warnings, passed down without detail, meant to be remembered rather than explained. Modern drivers may not know these tales, yet the experience feels strangely familiar to those who encounter it. The pull toward the lights does not feel external. It feels like agreement. Like remembering a destination rather than discovering it. Near the final stretch, the highway runs closest to the ocean. Here, the road dips and curves sharply, offering brief, breathtaking glimpses of water below. The lights drift lower at this point, hovering just above the guardrail, their glow reflecting faintly off metal and stone. The lights continue onward, patient and constant, leading toward the dark where road and sea nearly touch. Those who slow down here often feel a wave of exhaustion wash over them. Muscles relax. Thoughts blur. The idea of stopping seems inconvenient, almost rude. The lights continue onward, patient and constant, leading toward the dark where road and sea nearly touch. When dawn comes, gulls circle overhead. There is no sign of the lights, no residue of their passage. Only the quiet evidence of tire tracks ending too soon. And the lingering question of why so many felt compelled to follow. The highway remains open, traveled daily by those unaware of its reputation. But locals know better than to drive it late, when the ocean is calm and the night feels endless. They say the lights are still there, waiting just beyond the bend, drifting toward the sea, inviting anyone who sees them to hurry along and not look back. Nestled in the rolling hills of central Oregon lies a stretch of two-lane highway known locally as Hollow Curve Road. It is not marked on any official map. No sign announces its presence. Drivers find it by accident, usually while taking a shortcut between county routes. And once they do, they rarely forget it. The curve itself is unremarkable at first glance. As if the world takes a breath and holds it. Many report the same sensation upon entering the curve. A momentary disorientation. The steering wheel feels heavier. The engine hum softens as though muffled by cotton. And then time begins to stretch. Minutes feel longer. Glances at the dashboard clock seem to yield inconsistent readings. Some drivers pull over convinced they have stopped for only a few seconds, only to discover their phones show 45 minutes have passed. Yet the engine remains warm. The fuel gauge unchanged. There are no skid marks. No signs of collision. No physical evidence of delay. Just a quiet gap in memory. A missing stretch of experience. One trucker described it as driving through syrup. Every motion deliberate, every thought slowed. His cargo untouched. His coffee still hot. Scientists have studied the area. Geologists note a minor magnetic anomaly beneath the curve, likely caused by iron-rich basalt deposits. Chronobiologists suggest infrasound from wind moving through a nearby lava tube could subtly disrupt circadian perception. Both theories hold merit. Yet neither explains why the effect is so precisely bounded. Step off the road just 20 feet and the sensation vanishes. Return to the pavement and it resumes instantly. Like crossing an invisible threshold. Local histories offer older explanations. In the early 1900s, settlers spoke of the hollow time. A phrase used in diaries to describe journeys that took longer than they should. A farmer once wrote that his horse refused to trot through the bend, insisting instead on a slow measured walk as if obeying an unseen command. In the 1950s, a school bus route was quietly rerouted. After multiple children reported feeling sleepy and confused each time they passed through. None complained of fear. Only a deep quiet resignation. As if the curve asked for patience and they had no choice but to give it. Modern technology adds new layers to the mystery. GPS units sometimes lose signal mid-curve then reacquire it with a jump in location data. Dashcams record continuous footage yet timestamps freeze for intervals ranging from 90 seconds to over 2 hours. In one verified case, a driver recorded himself humming a song. The audio continued uninterrupted. But the timestamp remained fixed at 7:18 p.m. for 12 full minutes of playback. No one has been harmed. No vehicles damaged. There are no legends of accidents or disappearances tied to the site. Some speculate that hollow curve sits atop a natural resonance point where layers of bedrock and groundwater create a unique acoustic cavity. Others wonder if human perception has a blind spot here, a gap where the brain fills in time with stillness rather than motion. Whatever the cause, the experience leaves a lasting impression. Not dread but wonder. A quiet awe at how easily the familiar rules of the world can soften at the edges. Drivers who return often do so intentionally. Not out of fear but curiosity. They slow as they approach. Roll down the windows. And for a few seconds they allow themselves to drift into the curvia's strange rhythm. To feel time loosen its grip. To remember that the world is still full of quiet enigmas waiting just off the main road. Hollow Curve Road does not steal time. It borrows it. Holds it gently. And gives it back unchanged yet somehow altered. As if during those lost minutes something ancient and patient reached out, not to harm but to remind us. To remind us that some journeys are measured not in miles but in moments suspended between one breath and the next. And in a world that never stops moving, perhaps that is the most haunting gift of all. Saltwind Pass cuts through a wide saddle between barren hills, where the land opens suddenly and offers no shelter. The road climbs steadily, exposed on all sides, with little more than low stone barriers marking the edge. From a distance, it looks harmless, even scenic, framed by pale rock and endless sky. Up close, the wind tells a different story. Strong winds push cars sideways here. They arrive without warning, slamming into vehicles in powerful bursts that feel intentional rather than random. Drivers grip the wheel tightly as gusts shove against doors and panels, forcing constant correction. Even large trucks slow to a crawl, engines straining as if moving against resistance rather than air. It funnels through the gap with precision, striking hardest at the highest point of the road. Locals know to respect the pass. They check conditions before crossing and avoid it entirely when storms gather. Still, even on clear days, the wind can turn without warning. The sound of it fills the air, a deep, constant roar that presses against the ears. Within that sound, drivers hear something else. Screaming carried on the wind. At first, it blends into the rush of air, easy to dismiss as imagination or distortion. Then it sharpens. A rise in pitch. A break in rhythm. The sound becomes unmistakable, cutting through the roar with human urgency. It sounds too close to be natural. The screaming does not echo or fade like distant noise. The screaming does not echo or fade like distant noise. It feels immediate, as if someone is standing just outside the car, voice torn apart and stretched by the wind. Those who hear it react instinctively. Some brake suddenly, scanning the roadside for figures. Others accelerate, desperate to escape the sound. A few roll down their windows briefly, convinced they will see someone in distress. The moment the window opens, the wind surges inward, louder and more forceful, carrying the sound with it. No one is ever there. The roadside remains empty. No movement appears in mirrors. No shapes emerge from the rocks. The screaming continues only while the car remains within the pass, fading gradually as elevation drops. Accident reports along Saltwind Pass show a troubling pattern. Vehicles veer suddenly without clear cause. Drivers report loss of focus, delayed reactions, and overwhelming distraction. Skid marks often angle sharply toward the shoulder before correcting at the last moment. Drivers pulled over in panic. They sat with engines running, doors locked, listening as the wind battered the car. The screaming grew louder when they stopped, less distinct but more intense, as if proximity mattered. Those who waited it out reported relief only after the wind shifted or they resumed driving. Emergency services have responded to numerous calls from the pass. Drivers report hearing someone calling for help, only to realize the sound moves with the wind rather than staying fixed. Search efforts find nothing. Dash cameras capture wind noise and vibration. But the screaming rarely appears on playback. When it does, it sounds faint and distorted. Nothing like what drivers describe. Audio engineers attribute it to wind shear interacting with the vehicle. Yet this explanation fails to satisfy those who heard it directly. Maintenance crews working the pass report similar experiences. While repairing barriers or clearing debris, they hear sudden cries rise and fall around them. The sound follows their movement, intensifying when they turn their backs to the open land. Workers were hearing protection, yet some still report the sensation of voices cutting through. The wind pulls at clothing and equipment, tugging unexpectedly. Workers describe the feeling of being urged toward the edge, not pushed, but drawn, as if balance itself becomes unreliable. Most crews limit their time on the pass, working quickly and leaving as soon as possible. Local stories offer cautious explanations. Some say the pass amplifies sound from far below, carrying cries from distant places and reshaping them. Others believe the land remembers accidents, that the wind traces paths where people once lost control and repeats their final sounds. A few believe the screaming is not a memory, but a warning. They say the wind does not want drivers there. That the sound is meant to disrupt focus, to force caution or retreat. According to this view, the screaming grows louder when speed increases, as if responding to risk. Drivers who cross Saltwind Pass regularly develop habits. They keep windows closed tightly. They avoid stopping unless absolutely necessary. Music plays low to mask the sound without distracting attention. Most importantly, they stay centered in the lane, resisting the urge to look for a source. Those who panic fare worse. The screaming still appears, but it loses clarity when ignored. The wind remains strong, but manageable. Focus returns slowly, enough to guide the car through the highest point and down the far side. Sudden movements amplify instability. Braking sharply allows gusts to push harder. Opening windows increases disorientation. Those who respond emotionally to the sound describe longer-lasting effects, lingering anxiety, and recurring memories triggered by strong wind elsewhere. The pass itself shows no sign of change. Barriers remain intact. The road surface holds. There are no warning signs about sound or screaming, only notices about high winds and vehicle restrictions. Officials treat the phenomenon as a byproduct of extreme conditions. Yet the stories continue. Truck drivers share them quietly at rest stops. Locals warn newcomers casually, as if mentioning an expected inconvenience. Tourists dismiss them until they experience the sound themselves. Saltwind Pass does not threaten openly. It does not block passage or demand attention. It simply overwhelms the senses, layering force and sound until certainty becomes difficult. The screaming does not chase. It rides the wind, appearing and disappearing with no clear intent. Those who make it through often pause afterward. They pull over where the land levels out, breathing deeply, letting the wind die down. The silence that follows feels heavy, almost unnatural, as if something loud has just stepped away. Many never cross the pass again. Others return, prepared and cautious, knowing what to expect. They accept the wind, the sound, the unease, treating it as part of the landscape rather than an intrusion. Saltwind Pass remains exposed, open to sky and storm. The wind continues to surge through the gap, powerful and unpredictable. Cars still sway. Drivers still grip the wheel. And sometimes, when conditions align just right, the wind carries a sound that feels far too close. Rising and falling with the force of air that does not care who hears it. The pass does not explain itself. It only blows, and sometimes, it screams. The road once served a small coastal settlement that no longer appears on modern maps. Years ago, a series of storms battered the shoreline until the ground gave way. A long section of the road collapsed into the water below, leaving a broken edge where asphalt simply ends. The road was officially closed after that. Barriers were placed. Warning signs were installed. Over time, salt air and wind wore them down. Some signs disappeared. Others leaned sideways, unreadable. The path beyond the collapse remained visible, stretching forward as if nothing had happened, before dropping sharply into open space. Locals call it the drowned pathway. Despite the closure, people still find tire tracks past the collapse point. Fresh ones. They appear after storms, after calm days, even during dry weeks when the ground should not hold clear impressions. The tracks lead straight toward the missing section of road, stopping only at the edge where nothing remains. No one admits to driving there. Those who walk the area notice something stranger. Wet footprints appear on the remaining asphalt, darkened as if recently pressed by waterlogged soles. They begin near the intact road and move steadily forward. The prints are always the same size. Always spaced evenly. Always leading toward the cliff edge. The surrounding ground is dry. The ocean below the cliff is far down, its waves distant and slow. On calm days, the air carries the faint smell of salt, but no spray reaches the road. There is no logical reason for water to be present where the footprints appear. Visitors describe a heavy stillness near the collapse. Wind fades. Birds avoid the area. Some drivers ignore the barriers. Curiosity and disbelief pull them forward. They park at a safe distance, step out, and walk toward the broken edge. That is when they notice the footprints are not always alone. Sometimes, faint marks appear beside them. A drag in the dust. A scuffed line that suggests something heavy was pulled forward rather than walking on its own. The marks stop abruptly near the edge, where the road once continued. Those who linger too long report hearing water where none should be. A slow, rhythmic sound, like waves against stone, rising from beneath the asphalt. At night, the road feels closer to the past. Moonlight reflects off the broken asphalt, making it shine faintly, like something still wet. Headlights illuminate the missing section, revealing only darkness beyond. Some describe seeing movement where the road ends. A shape just beyond the edge, a suggestion of someone standing where no ground exists. Maintenance crews sent to reinforce the barriers often leave early. Tools rust faster near the collapse. Metal becomes slick to the touch, damp even on clear days. Workers report boots leaving wet impressions behind them, though their clothes remain dry. Historical records show the collapse was not sudden. The road weakened over time, eroded by repeated flooding. One storm finally broke it open. No vehicles were reported lost that night. No official casualties were recorded. Still, older residents recall stories of a car that never arrived home. Of headlights seen moving along the cliff long after the road should have been gone. Those stories were never confirmed. They were spoken quietly, without details. Those stories were never confirmed. They were spoken quietly, without details. The tire tracks that appear past the collapse never show signs of turning around. Authorities have attempted to monitor the area. Cameras fail without explanation. Footage skips. Batteries drain overnight. When images do record successfully, they show nothing unusual. An empty road. A broken edge. No vehicles. No people. Yet each morning, new tracks sometimes appear. Hikers who follow the coastline below the cliff report finding debris that does not belong there. Fragments of asphalt. Rusted metal. Pieces of road that should have fallen years ago, yet appear newly broken. The ocean gives them back slowly, rearranged. Standing at the drowned pathway for too long creates a strange sensation of movement, like the ground beneath your feet is not fully still. The feeling fades once you leave, replaced by a quiet certainty that you should not return. Most people do not. The road remains closed. The barriers remain imperfect. The sea continues its work. And somewhere between what was and what remains, the path waits, marked by tracks that should not exist. And footprints that always lead toward the edge. The first lanterns are usually seen just after dusk. They appear one by one along the roadside, spaced irregularly. Glowing with a soft, steady light. They do not sway like hanging lamps, nor do they flicker like flames. They simply hover at a fixed height, as if resting on unseen hooks in the air. Drivers initially mistake them for markers or private property lights. The glow is warm and inviting, cutting gently through the dark without casting harsh shadows. The lanterns do not illuminate the road ahead, only themselves, creating small islands of light against the surrounding black. Those passing through often feel compelled to slow down. Curiosity takes hold easily here. The road is quiet, with little traffic and no nearby towns. The lanterns seem placed deliberately, as if meant to be noticed. As each one passes, another appears farther ahead, drawing attention forward. What makes Pale Lantern Road unusual is not the appearance of the lights, but what happens when someone stops. Vehicles that pull over near a lantern experience sudden and complete engine failure. Headlights remain on for a moment, then dim. Dashboard indicators fade. Phone signals weaken or disappear entirely. Attempts to restart the engine produce nothing, no sound, no response. The silence that follows feels unnatural, thicker than ordinary night. People who exit their cars describe the air as unusually still. No wind moves through the trees. Insects fall silent. The lantern nearest them glows unchanged, offering no heat, no movement, only steady presence. Approaching it brings no clearer understanding. Some report hearing faint sounds while standing beside their stalled vehicles. Soft steps on leaves. The quiet creak of wood settling. These sounds never come closer, yet never fully fade. Looking toward the lanterns further down the road reveals they are still there, waiting, evenly spaced, patient. Attempts to push vehicles away from the lanterns rarely succeed. Steering locks. Brakes feel heavier. Those who remain calm and stay inside their cars tend to fare better. After several minutes, sometimes longer, the lanterns dim and vanish without warning. When the lights disappear, engines often restart on the first try. Power returns fully. Radios function again. The surrounding forest resumes its ordinary sounds, as if nothing unusual occurred. Drivers who leave immediately rarely encounter the lanterns again that night. Some vehicles are found abandoned along the road the following morning, engines functional, keys still in the ignition. There are no signs of damage or struggle, only the unsettling absence of the driver. Those who linger or attempt to investigate further are not always so fortunate. Local maintenance crews have documented repeated complaints over decades. Inspections reveal no electrical interference, no environmental explanation. There are no buried cables, no reflective materials, no historical use of lanterns along that stretch. Official reports quietly advise motorists not to stop on Pale Lantern Road after dark. Older residents offer their own understanding. Long before the road was paved, the area served as a footpath through the woods. Travelers carried lanterns to guide one another safely through the night. It is said that those who stopped too long risked losing their way, not in distance, but in purpose. According to these accounts, the lanterns were never meant to be followed or approached. They were markers of passage, not destinations. To stop beside one was to step outside the flow of travel, to pause where movement was required. Modern drivers may not believe such ideas, yet their experiences echo the same pattern. The lanterns do not chase or threaten. They simply wait. The moment a driver chooses stillness over motion, the road responds. Survivors often describe a strange emotional shift while stranded. Fear is present, but muted. In its place comes a heavy calm, an urge to rest, to sit quietly and observe the lantern's glow. Some feel as though time has slowed, minutes stretching indistinctly, thoughts becoming shallow and repetitive. Breaking that stillness seems key. Those who remain alert, who resist the urge to step closer, who keep their focus on leaving, tend to recover sooner. The road appears to reward motion, even when motion feels difficult. Pale Lantern Road remains open and in use, though few locals travel it at night. Newcomers dismiss the warnings until they see the lights themselves, glowing gently along the edge of the dark. By morning, there is no trace they were ever there. The lanterns leave no scorch marks, no residue, no explanation. Only stories shared quietly, and a simple rule repeated by those who know the road best. Keep moving. Do not stop. And if the lanterns appear, let them pass you by. High in the Blue Ridge foothills of western North Carolina winds a narrow mountain road known among locals as Screeching Turn. It is not steep. Not sharply banked. Not particularly dangerous by engineering standards. Yet for over half a century drivers have reported the same impossible phenomenon. A sound that defies explanation. The turn itself is modest. The pavement is smooth. Guardrails are present and well maintained. But the moment a vehicle enters the arc, a high-pitched skid begins. Not from the tires. Not from the brakes. The sound is unmistakable. Rubber tearing against asphalt. A violent protest. Even when the car is moving at 10 miles per hour. Even when the driver has lifted their foot completely from the accelerator. The screech builds in intensity. Peaking at the midpoint of the curve. Before fading just as the vehicle exits. Passengers often flinch. Some cover their ears. The sound is visceral, jarring, almost physical in its urgency. The road surface shows no skid marks. No heat residue. No evidence of friction at all. Mechanics who have driven the turn with diagnostic tools report normal tire rotation, stable suspension, and no brake engagement. The noise simply exists. As if the air itself is screaming on behalf of something unseen. More unsettling are the secondary sounds. A crash. A collapse. Like heavy branches snapping or stone giving way under sudden weight. Some describe it as the sound of a vehicle tumbling down a slope. Twisting metal. Shattering glass. The noise lasts only 2 or 3 seconds. But feels devastatingly real. Instinctively drivers slow further. Roll down their windows. Peer over the guardrail into the ravine. But the slope below is quiet. Undisturbed. Sunlight filters through the canopy onto a carpet of ferns and moss-covered boulders. No debris. No tire tracks. No signs of impact. Aerial surveys show the forest floor intact. LiDAR mapping confirms no recent landslides, no hidden gullies, no anomalies in the terrain. The sound has no source. Yet it is heard consistently by independent witnesses across decades. Forest rangers stationed nearby have grown accustomed to the reports. They check the area after every call. Always the same result. Birds resume their songs within minutes. Deer move calmly through the underbrush. A ranger installed motion-activated audio recorders. The devices captured the screech clearly. Followed by the crash. Spectrogram analysis revealed something unusual. The frequencies did not match tire noise or mechanical failure. They aligned more closely with wind harmonics interacting with fractured rock. Geologists note that the ridge is composed of layered quartzite and shale prone to microfractures. Some suggest that subtle shifts in the bedrock, perhaps triggered by temperature changes or distant seismic activity, could produce resonant vibrations. That these vibrations are amplified by the Curvia's geometry, creating an unsettling, unnerving atmosphere. A geological sigh. But this theory does not explain why the phenomenon occurs almost exclusively at night or in overcast conditions. Nor why animals avoid the immediate area. Trail cameras show foxes and raccoons pausing at the tree line before turning back. Birds fall silent as vehicles approach the turn. There is a hush that settles just before the screech begins. As if everything is listening. Older residents speak of the turn in hushed tones. Not with fear but with respect. One woman recalled her grandfather saying, "The land remembers motion. That long ago something happened here, something sudden and violent, and the earth has been replaying the echo ever since." Not as a warning but as a memorial. A sonic fossil preserved in stone and slope. No accidents have been recorded at screeching turn in over 40 years. Modern drivers slow instinctively as they approach. Some even stop beforehand, take a breath and proceed with deliberate calm. They do not speed up to escape the sound. They do not avoid the road entirely. They pass through with quiet acknowledgement, as if honoring a moment that belongs not to them but to the land itself. The screech is not a threat. It is a reminder. That some places hold on to motion long after it has ended. That sound can outlive its source. And that sometimes the most haunting things are not what we see but what we hear in the space between the trees and the curve of the road where the past refuses to stay silent. Tidefall Road runs along a low stretch of coastline where land and sea sit uncomfortably close. During the day, it appears harmless. Waves roll in at a distance. Gulls circle overhead. The road feels solid beneath the tires. Then, without warning, water appears. Drivers report sections of the road suddenly covered in a thin sheet of flowing water, even when the sky is clear and no rain has fallen for days. The surface glistens faintly, reflecting headlights and sunlight alike. There is no visible source. No broken pipes. No storm surge pushing inland. The water simply crosses the road. It moves quietly, sliding from the ocean side toward the opposite shoulder, then disappearing into drains or cracks in the ground. By the time maintenance crews arrive, the pavement is often dry again, leaving no clear evidence behind. This phenomenon has been reported for decades. Tide charts do not align with the sightings. The water does not coincide with high tide or rough seas. It appears at different times of day and night, sometimes returning to the same stretch repeatedly, sometimes shifting a few hundred feet down the road. What unsettles drivers most is how the road feels when the water is present. Even at low speeds, tires lose grip. The pavement feels slick, not like rain-soaked asphalt, but like ice. Steering becomes light and unresponsive. Braking distance increases unexpectedly. Cars drift slightly even when traveling straight. Drivers instinctively slow down. Some pull over, waiting for the water to recede. Others continue cautiously, convinced the surface will improve once past the wet section. Many later report that the slippery sensation lasts longer than the visible water itself, as if the road retains the effect even after drying. The most disturbing reports involve the steering wheel. Some drivers feel a sudden, sharp pull toward the ocean. The motion feels deliberate, not like wind or uneven pavement, but like resistance applied directly to the steering. Those who experience it describe the same moment of disbelief. They check for mechanical failure. They look for debris. They grip the wheel tighter, fighting the pull. Until it releases just as suddenly as it began. Afterward, the vehicle behaves normally, as if nothing happened. No consistent mechanical issues have been found. Inspections reveal no faults. Alignment is correct. Steering systems function as expected. Yet the reports continue, remarkably similar in detail across different vehicles and drivers. Accident records along Tidefall Road reveal a troubling pattern. Vehicles leave the roadway near the ocean side more often than expected. Skid marks sometimes curve sharply toward the water, inconsistent with normal loss of control. In several cases, drivers reported feeling the pull just before the incident. Not all incidents result in crashes. Many drivers correct in time, heart racing, pulling away from the edge and continuing down the road shaken but unharmed. These near misses often go unreported, shared only as stories afterward. Maintenance crews are familiar with the reputation of Tidefall Road. They inspect drainage systems regularly, searching for explanations. Saltwater intrusion has been considered, but tests show no abnormal seepage. The roadbed appears stable. The surface material is standard and well maintained. While standing on the pavement near the ocean side, some feel subtle shifts beneath their boots, like movement far below. Others describe a faint vibration when the water appears, too gentle to be seismic, but persistent enough to notice. At night, the road feels different. The ocean sounds closer, louder, its rhythm more insistent. Headlights catch the sheen of water suddenly, forcing drivers to react quickly. Some drivers report hearing the water before seeing it. A low rush, like waves breaking directly beneath the pavement, even when the shoreline is visibly calm. The sound fades once the water crosses the road, replaced by an uneasy silence. Local stories offer cautious explanations. Some believe Tidefall Road was built over old channels where the sea once flowed freely. According to these accounts, the water remembers its path and returns when conditions align, regardless of surface barriers. Others suggest the road lies above shifting layers of saturated ground that respond unpredictably to pressure and tide, creating temporary flow and instability. A few speak more quietly. They say the ocean pulls. Not violently, not angrily, but persistently. They believe the water senses movement above it and responds, reaching upward through the weakest points. In this telling, the steering pull is not mechanical or environmental, but an interaction between motion and depth. Drivers who experience the pull often describe lingering effects. For days afterward, they they feel uneasy near open water. Steering feels overly sensitive on other roads. Some avoid coastal routes entirely, preferring longer inland drives without hesitation. Attempts to document the phenomenon have yielded little. Cameras capture water crossing the road, but not its source. Sensors record normal conditions. No unusual electromagnetic activity is detected. The pull on the steering wheel leaves no trace. The experience remains subjective, yet consistent. Those who dismiss the stories often change their minds after a single encounter. The sensation of losing control without explanation is difficult to forget, especially when it draws the vehicle toward open water. Tidefall Road remains open and in use. Warning signs mention slick conditions and coastal flooding, though neither fully explains what drivers report. Traffic continues, especially during daylight, when the road feels safest. At night, fewer cars pass through. Those who do travel slowly, alert to reflections on the pavement and the feel of the wheel in their hands. They watch the ocean carefully, aware that it can reach farther than it should. Most drivers pass without incident. The water does not appear every time. The pull does not happen to everyone. The road can feel ordinary for weeks, then change suddenly in a single moment. When the water does appear, it leaves no damage. It flows across the road, makes its presence known, and withdraws. The pavement dries. Traffic resumes. Only the memory remains, sharp and unsettling. The road does not close. It does not warn loudly. Tidefall Road exists in a narrow space between certainty and uncertainty, where water crosses dry ground without reason, where pavement turns slick like ice under clear skies, where a steering wheel can move on its own, just enough to remind drivers how close the ocean truly is. It simply waits, beside the water, ready for the moment when sea and asphalt meet again, and a driver feels the pull and understands how thin the line between land and ocean can be. The coastline bends sharply at this point, where land narrows and the sea presses close. Widowmaker Coast Drive follows that line without compromise. There is no shoulder. No margin for error. On one side, a rock wall rises steep and unyielding. On the other, the ocean stretches downward, dark and restless, far below the edge of the pavement. The road was built decades ago, carved directly into the cliff. Engineers prioritized efficiency over comfort. The asphalt is narrow, barely wide enough for two vehicles to pass without slowing. Guardrails were never installed. The cliff face was considered warning enough. Drivers feel it almost immediately upon entering the stretch. A weight settles in the chest. Breathing becomes shallow without conscious effort. Thoughts slow, not from calm, but from a quiet, spreading dread that has no clear source. The road itself feels watchful, as if aware of every vehicle that commits to its length. Traffic is light, even during peak hours. Locals avoid the drive when possible. Visitors underestimate it, assuming the name is exaggeration meant to impress tourists. That confidence rarely lasts past the first bend. The ocean below moves constantly, but its sound rarely reaches the road. Wind sweeps across the cliff, tugging at mirrors and pushing against the side of the car. Without a shoulder, there is nowhere to pull over. Once you enter, you continue forward until the road allows you to leave. They sit quietly, staring out the window, suddenly alert. Some report the sense of being watched, not from outside, but from within the vehicle itself. In the rearview mirror, a shape appears where nothing should be. Still. Upright. Silent. When they face forward again, the reflection sometimes returns, clearer this time. Drivers rarely see the figures at first. They are focused on the road, on the cliff edge inches away from the tires. But they feel the change in the car. The shift in air. The way conversation stops without agreement. The way everyone becomes careful with movement, as if sudden motion might draw attention. Passengers describe the figures as calm. They do not reach forward. They do not speak. They sit as if waiting, hands folded or resting on their knees. Their presence is heavy but restrained, like an unspoken rule has been agreed upon. The dread intensifies the longer the car remains on Widowmaker Coast Drive. It does not spike suddenly. It builds slowly, tightening with each curve. Drivers feel compelled to check mirrors repeatedly, even when they know the road behind them is empty. Some passengers close their eyes. Others refuse to look away from the windshield. No one suggests stopping. The idea does not occur naturally. There is nowhere safe to do so, and some instinct warns that stopping would be worse than continuing. Those who speak about their experiences later say the figures never interact. They do not touch. They do not make sound. Their stillness is what makes them unbearable. They feel permanent, as if they have always been there and always will be. Local records show a long history of accidents along this stretch. Many involve single vehicles. No signs of sudden braking. Cars simply leave the road. Investigators often note that drivers made no attempt to correct their course. Survivors of near misses describe a moment of overwhelming distraction. A certainty that something behind them required attention. A pull toward the mirror at the worst possible time. Those who resist the urge feel it linger, dissatisfied. At night, the drive becomes more severe. Headlights carve narrow tunnels through darkness. The ocean disappears entirely, replaced by a void that swallows sound. Reflections in the rearview mirror deepen, sharpen, as if the glass itself is more willing to show what should not be there. Some drivers turn the mirror away. Others keep it fixed, believing that watching is safer than pretending. Neither approach guarantees relief. The figures are patient. As the road finally widens and the cliff eases back, the feeling lifts. It does not fade gradually. It releases all at once. Breath returns. Shoulders lower. The car feels empty again. Mirrors show only seats and glass. Passengers often look at each other in silence. Unsure who experienced what. Few speak about it immediately. The words feel inadequate, fragile. Naming the experience feels like inviting it back. Widowmaker Coast Drive continues to carry traffic each day. Maps mark it as scenic. Travel guides mention the views. They do not mention the dread. Or the silent company that some drivers carry for those few miles. The road does not chase anyone. It does not trap them. It simply offers a passage, narrow and exposed. And asks only that you keep your eyes forward. And whatever you feel sitting behind you. Remain calm, remain steady. And keep driving until the road lets you go. The road leading to Phantom Curve looks ordinary from a distance, a gentle bend carved into a forested hillside. During the day, drivers pass through without notice, barely adjusting their speed. At night, especially in low traffic hours, the curve reveals a different nature, one that announces itself not through signs or warnings, but through the behavior of the car itself. Drivers approaching Phantom Curve often feel the change before they see it. The steering wheel grows subtly heavy. The engine tone softens, as if easing its effort. Without touching the pedal, the car begins to slow. Brake lights glow faintly on the dashboard reflection, even though the driver's foot remains flat on the floor mat. At first, this feels like a mechanical issue. Modern vehicles are complex, filled with automated systems designed to protect their occupants. Yet the deceleration is too smooth, too deliberate. It does not trigger alarms or error messages. The car behaves as if guided by an unseen hand that knows exactly how much pressure to apply. As speed drops, another sensation emerges. From the passenger side comes the sound of breathing. Slow, steady, unmistakably close. The rhythm is calm, almost synchronized with the vehicle's movement through the curve. Drivers instinctively glance toward the empty seat. Nothing is there. The door is closed. The window reflects only darkness and passing trees. Yet the breathing continues, as if someone is sitting perfectly still, facing forward, sharing the ride. Those who panic tend to react poorly. Slamming the accelerator produces little response. The car resists sudden changes, maintaining its controlled slowdown until the curve is nearly complete. Steering feels guided, correcting itself with small adjustments that keep the vehicle centered in the lane. Those who remain calm notice something else. The braking always begins at the same point. The breathing starts at the same moment. And as the road straightens, both fade away. Speed returns smoothly. The sound disappears. Control feels fully restored, leaving drivers unsure whether anything unusual truly occurred. Accident reports around Phantom Curve reveal a strange pattern. Serious crashes are rare, despite the curve's poor visibility and sharp angle. Vehicles slow precisely where traction is lowest. Skid marks are minimal. No faults in braking systems, no software anomalies, no evidence of external interference. Older records tell a quieter story. Decades ago, before modern safety features, the curve was far more dangerous. Runoff incidents were common. Drivers misjudged the bend and paid the price. One particular accident is mentioned repeatedly in local archives, involving a late-night drive and a passenger who never made it home. Details are scarce, but the outcome shaped the road's reputation. After that incident, accidents decreased without clear explanation. Drivers began reporting sensations that could not be measured or tested. Authorities attributed it to heightened awareness, to subconscious memory of danger passed down through local knowledge. Yet that explanation does not account for the consistency. New visitors experience the same slowdown. Rental cars behave the same way. Vehicles with disabled driver assistance systems still respond. The curve seems to act independently of the machine moving through it. Those who drive the road frequently speak of Phantom Curve with cautious respect. They say the breathing is not frightening once you accept it. It feels watchful, attentive, as if something is ensuring the car makes it through safely. The presence never lingers beyond the bend. One former road engineer studied the area late in his career. He measured gradients, magnetic fields, and surface composition. His findings were inconclusive. But he noted something unusual. Tire wear along the curve was remarkably even, as if vehicles consistently followed the same ideal path. He also admitted, privately, that he heard the breathing once while testing the road at night. He described it as patient, almost reassuring. After that, he stopped his investigations and declined further comment. Drivers who attempt to record the phenomenon find little success. Audio captures only faint wind noise. Video shows nothing but darkness and passing reflectors. Sensors log normal data, offering no hint of the moment control shifts away from human hands. The experience leaves a lingering effect. Many drivers report feeling accompanied long after they leave the curve. Not followed, but remembered. The road feels quieter, the car more responsive, as if having passed an unspoken test. Phantom Curve does not announce itself with fear or spectacle. The breathing never grows closer. The brakes never lock. The car never stops entirely. The curve allows passage, but only on its terms. By daylight, Phantom Curve is just another bend in the road. Sunlight filters through trees. Birds cross the pavement without concern. There is no sign of intervention, no trace of presence. Yet at night, when headlights carve tunnels through darkness, the curve waits. And when a car enters too fast, when judgment falters, something else takes the wheel for just a moment. A quiet breath is heard. Speed is reduced. The road is navigated safely. Then the presence releases its hold, leaving the driver to continue on, carrying a story that feels real even as it defies explanation. Winding along the rugged coastal bluffs of Big Sur lies a stretch of highway known to locals as Cliff Shadow Route. It is not the most dangerous road in California. Not the steepest nor the narrowest. But it is the one drivers remember for what they see or almost see out of the corner of their eye. The route follows a high cliffside where the Pacific Ocean crashes far below. By day it is breathtaking. Sunlight glints off the water. Seabirds circle lazily. But at dusk the character of the place shifts. Drivers report this consistently. Long before headlights are needed, deep silhouettes appear along the shoulder. Human-shaped but elongated. They run alongside vehicles matching speed with uncanny precision. Some appear to keep pace for miles. Others dart between boulders or vanish behind clusters of cypress before reappearing farther ahead. The most striking detail is this. The figures cast no light. They do not reflect the glow of passing cars. They exist only as absences, dark shapes moving against the dim landscape. When a driver turns to look directly, the silhouette disappears. Instantly. Not by hiding behind an object. Not by stepping into cover. It simply ceases to be visible. As if the act of focused attention dissolves it. Peripheral vision is where they thrive. In the edge of awareness where motion registers but detail does not. Many drivers instinctively slow down. Not out of fear but out of curiosity. A strange compulsion to understand what their eyes are trying to show them. No photographs have captured a clear image. Dashcams show only fleeting distortions. The fluid stride. The lack of facial features. The way the figures seem to lean into the wind even when the air is still. One retired postal worker who drove the route for 23 years said they never felt threatened. Only observed. As if the shadows were cataloging movement. Recording passage. Scientists have studied the optical conditions here. The coastal fog interacting with residual heat from the road surface can create temperature gradients that bend light in unexpected ways. Mirage effects are common in desert regions but rare along the cooler California coast. Still, researchers note that under specific humidity and wind conditions a phenomenon called looming can occur where distant objects appear elevated and distorted. Could distant seabirds or deer be misinterpreted? Possibly. But the reports persist even on clear, dry nights. And the runners never appear on radar sweeps conducted by state geology teams. Local histories offer quieter explanations. Decades ago this stretch was part of an old footpath used by coastal tribes for seasonal migration. Elders spoke of the path Wakursa spirits said to accompany travelers as guardians, not guides. They were not seen when sought but felt when present. In the 1930s a lighthouse keeper wrote in his log that he often saw figures moving along the cliff at twilight. He never mentioned them to visitors. He simply left extra lanterns lit on the lower path. Just in case. Modern drivers have developed quiet rituals. Some wave once as they enter the curve. Others tap the horn lightly. Not in challenge but in acknowledgement. A gesture of respect for something they cannot explain but no longer deny. Park rangers stationed nearby report that vehicles slow naturally as they approach the most active section. Not out of caution but for the presence along it. There are no accidents linked to the phenomenon. No reports of vehicles swerving or stopping abruptly. The experience seems to evoke calm more than panic. A sense of shared space. Of ancient rhythm intersecting with modern motion. What makes Cliff Shadow Route remarkable is not that it frightens people. It is that it invites attention. That it asks drivers to trust their peripheral visione, the part of sight most attuned to movement and change. The part that evolved to sense what lies just beyond the known. Perhaps the figures are echoes of old journeys. Or optical anomalies shaped by wind and rock. Or perhaps the land here retains a memory of motion so deeply that it reenacts it nightly. Whatever the cause, one truth remains. On quiet evenings when the fog rolls in just right. And for a few miles the living and the almost seen travel side by side along the edge of the world. Sea Glass Road follows a low stretch of coast where the land curves gently toward the water. During the day, it looks like any other shoreline drive. Gray pavement, faded lane markings, and long views of open sea. Nothing about it suggests danger or mystery. It is only after sunset that the road begins to change. At first, it looks like moisture-catching light. Headlights sweep across the surface, and tiny points of reflection flicker back. But the longer the road is driven, the more unnatural the shimmer becomes. The sparkle does not behave like water. It appears in patches that shift from one night to the next. Some stretches glow intensely, while others remain dull. The reflections are sharp, prismatic, like fragments of glass scattered across the asphalt. They catch headlights at impossible angles, flashing briefly like broken crystals embedded in the road. Drivers slow down instinctively. The pavement looks hazardous, as if covered in debris. The road surface feels smooth and unchanged beneath the wheels. Then the reflections begin to move. Drivers report seeing flashes of motion. Not their own headlights or passing cars, but sudden shapes that resemble collisions. A vehicle swerving sharply. Headlights spinning out of control. The brief impression of metal folding or glass bursting outward. These crashes never happened. There is no impact. No noise. No change in traffic. The reflections appear for only a moment, playing out silently across the road surface, then dissolving back into scattered light. The images feel close. Drivers describe the sensation as watching an accident unfold directly in front of them, only to realize nothing is actually there. Heart rate spikes. Hands tighten on the wheel. Some brake hard, expecting debris or vehicles in the lane. When they stop, the road is empty. No damaged cars. No skid marks. No broken parts. Only the shimmering pavement stretching ahead, calm and intact. The reflections do not repeat predictably. One driver may see a brief flash of headlights colliding at an intersection that does not exist. Another may glimpse a car sliding sideways toward the ocean. Some report seeing reflections of their own vehicle involved in the crash, an image that vanishes the moment they look directly at it. The effect is strongest on nights with clear skies. Moonlight intensifies the sparkle, layering pale glow over the reflections from headlights. On overcast nights, the phenomenon still occurs, but feels muted, as if struggling against the darkness. By morning, the road is normal again. Daylight reveals plain asphalt. No glass. No residue. No sign that the pavement ever reflected anything unusual. Maintenance crews find nothing out of place. The surface tests clean and intact. Broken glass vanishes by morning. Drivers who return at dawn expecting to see shards or damage find nothing. Even after nights when the sparkle was intense, the road looks untouched, as if the reflections never occurred at all. Accident reports along Sea Glass Road are surprisingly low. Given the number of drivers who report seeing crashes, officials expected a higher rate of incidents. Instead, statistics show fewer accidents than comparable coastal roads. This contradiction has only deepened the mystery. Some believe the road is showing possibilities rather than events. Local stories suggest Sea Glass Road reflects moments that almost happened. Near misses. Choices narrowly avoided. The reflections, according to these accounts, are warnings rather than memories. Others believe the road absorbs impact. They say the pavement holds echoes of accidents from long ago, grinding them down over time until only light remains. In this telling, the sparkle is the final trace of shattered glass, polished smooth by years of passing traffic and wind. A few long-time residents offer quieter theories. They say the road listens. That it mirrors fear back to those who carry it. Drivers tense at night, alert to danger, imagining what could go wrong. The road reflects those thoughts in light, turning anxiety into brief, visible moments. Yet this explanation falters when drivers see details they could not have imagined. Specific vehicle shapes. Headlight patterns from decades past. Designs that no longer exist. Some reflections show cars older drivers remember from childhood, models long absent from modern roads. Attempts to record the phenomenon have failed. Cameras capture the sparkle but not the images within it. Footage shows flickering points of light that appear random and harmless. The crash reflections vanish on playback, leaving nothing but ordinary road glare. Audio recordings capture no sound. There is no screeching tires. No impact noise. The reflections remain silent, playing out like memories without voices. Drivers who experience Sea Glass Road often report lingering unease. They find themselves checking mirrors more frequently. Night driving feels different afterward, heavier with awareness. Some describe flashes of light in their peripheral vision long after leaving the road, though nothing appears when they look directly. Others feel reassured. They believe the reflections serve as reminders to slow down, to pay attention. Many who witness the crashes drive more cautiously afterward, unconsciously adjusting speed and distance. Sea Glass Road has no warning signs. There are notices about coastal glare and night visibility, but nothing about sparkling pavement or phantom collisions. Authorities have no explanation and little interest in drawing attention to a road that functions safely by all measurable standards. Tourists rarely notice anything unusual. The phenomenon appears most often to those driving alone or late at night, when the road is quiet and focus narrows. Shared attention seems to dull the effect, as if the road prefers singular witnesses. The sparkle never extends beyond the pavement. Guardrails, signs, and nearby sand remain unaffected. Only the road itself catches and bends the light, transforming it into fleeting images that feel deeply personal. Sea Glass Road remains open and ordinary by day. Cars pass without incident. Tires hum. Waves roll steadily in the distance. There is no trace of the night beneath the sun. But after dark, when headlights sweep across the asphalt, the road remembers something else. It scatters light into sharp fragments. It reflects moments that never quite happened. It shows drivers what could have been, just long enough to be felt, then takes it all away before morning. The glass does not remain. The crashes do not occur. Only the memory of shimmering pavement and impossible reflections follows drivers home, leaving them to wonder whether the road is warning them, remembering for them, or simply revealing how thin the line is between motion and impact. Sea Glass Road offers no answers. It only shines at night, and by morning, pretends it never did. The highway cuts through a wide stretch of open land where hills flatten and trees thin out until the horizon feels distant and exposed. Clean pavement. Faded lane markings. A long, straight path designed to move traffic quickly from one place to another. Drivers do not notice anything wrong until their phones go quiet. Signal bars drop without warning. One moment there is connection, the next there is none. No slow fade. No searching indicator. Just silence. Most assume it is a dead zone. They keep driving. The radio is usually the next thing to change. Music dissolves into static, sharp and uneven. Adjusting the dial does nothing. Every station blends into the same sound, a rough hiss layered with faint distortion. It feels close, as if the noise is inside the car rather than coming from the speakers. Then something else slips through. At first it sounds like interference. A fluctuation in the static. A pattern that almost forms words. A fluctuation in the static. A pattern that almost forms words. They are not loud. They do not demand attention. They drift in and out, woven into the static like a secondary signal struggling to surface. The tone is calm, cautious, as if offering advice meant to be helpful. Slow down. Pay attention. Do not turn off the road. The warnings are never consistent. They change from drive to drive, from person to person. Some hear directions. Others hear reminders of things they forgot. Names. Places. Half sentences that end before meaning settles. Drivers often reach for their phones at this point, tapping screens out of habit, hoping for distraction or reassurance. The phones remain unresponsive. No bars return. Emergency calls do not connect. The sense of isolation deepens. The highway itself begins to feel longer than it should. Mile markers appear farther apart. The landscape repeats in subtle ways, the same curve, the same cluster of rocks, the same dead tree appearing more than once. It creates the impression of slow progress, even when the speedometer says otherwise. Then some drivers hear something far more unsettling. Their own voices. It starts quietly, almost hidden within the static. A familiar cadence. A rhythm they recognize before they identify it. The radio plays back words spoken in their voice, with their tone and inflection. This is the most unsettling part. The problem is that the words were never spoken. The sentences feel personal. Specific. Thoughts remembered rather than statements made. Things considered silently during long drives. Doubts. Questions. Warnings meant only for oneself. Hearing them aloud creates a jolt of unease that tightens the chest. The voice does not shout. It does not mock. It repeats the phrases patiently, as if testing them, listening for a reaction. Some drivers respond without thinking. They speak aloud, telling the radio to stop, asking who is there, demanding an explanation. The response, if it comes, is delayed and distorted. Their words return altered, slowed, bent slightly out of shape, no longer fully theirs. Passengers who share the drive report different experiences. They hear voices meant for them, not the driver. Conversations break down quickly. Talking makes the radio more active. Silence does not stop it, but it seems to limit how much gets through. Many drivers choose quiet, gripping the wheel, focusing on the road ahead. The highway remains unchanged. No sudden turns. No obvious hazards. Local authorities acknowledge the signal loss but offer no explanation for the audio reports. Technicians testing the area record nothing unusual. Their equipment captures static only. When played back later, the recordings remain empty of meaning. Those who experience the whispers insist they are real. The phenomenon ends as abruptly as it begins. One moment the radio carries layered voices and warnings, the next it snaps back to music. Cell phones reconnect, notifications flooding in all at once. Navigation resumes, recalculating as if nothing happened. The highway behind them looks the same as the road ahead. No visible marker separates the silent stretch from the connected world. Drivers often pull over once signal returns, hearts racing, needing proof of normalcy. Messages send. Calls go through. The world responds. Relief settles in, though it feels thin, temporary. When they try to describe what happened, words fail. The experience feels fragile, easily dismissed. Static. Imagination. Stress. Long drives do strange things to the mind. Yet patterns emerge. The warnings heard on the radio often align with choices drivers face later. Turns not taken. Speeds adjusted. Stops delayed. Some credit the voices with preventing accidents. Others resent the lingering feeling of being guided without consent. The road does not perform on command. Sometimes it remains silent. Sometimes it takes more. What remains consistent is the loss of control. That connection is not guaranteed. That voices can exist without clear sources. That silence can listen as closely as sound. A few return to last signal highway intentionally, seeking answers. They rarely find them. The road does not perform on command. Sometimes it remains silent. Sometimes it takes more. What remains consistent is the loss of control. That connection is not guaranteed. That voices can exist without clear sources. That silence can listen as closely as sound. Last signal highway continues to carry traffic every day. Most pass through unaware. Phones connected, radios clear. For others, the drive leaves a lasting impression, a memory of hearing themselves reflected back through static, saying things they never said. And once you have heard your own voice come from somewhere it should not, the silence afterward never feels quite the same. Hollow Edge Drive traces the side of a coastal cliff where land gives way to open air. In daylight, the road feels dramatic but manageable, offering wide views of water and sky. At night, those views disappear, replaced by a sense that the darkness has weight, and that the edge is far closer than memory allows. Drivers entering Hollow Edge Drive often notice the change immediately. The road feels tighter, as if the lanes have narrowed since the last visit. Side mirrors seem too close to the guardrail. The center line feels distant, no longer where it should be. Even large vehicles move cautiously, guided more by instinct than sight. The cliff itself cannot be seen after sunset. There is no horizon, no reflection from the water below. Just a deep absence where land should continue. The guardrail stands between the road and that absence, thin and unconvincing. Its metal catching headlights in brief flashes before sinking back into shadow. Many drivers report that the edge appears to lean inward. The sensation is subtle at first, like a trick of perspective. As the car moves forward, the darkness beyond the guardrail feels closer, pressing toward the pavement. The road does not visibly change, yet the sense of available space steadily shrinks. Those who grip the wheel tightly and keep moving tend to pass through without incident. The feeling peaks near the center of the drive, then slowly releases as the road curves away from the cliff. But for some, the discomfort becomes too strong. They slow down. They pull over. Stopping on Hollow Edge Drive changes everything. The moment the car comes to rest, the silence deepens. Wind drops away. The sound of the engine cooling feels unnaturally loud, then fades. What remains is a low, constant pressure, not heard but felt, drawing attention toward the guardrail. Drivers who step out of their vehicles describe an immediate sense of imbalance. The ground feels uneven, though it is not. Standing upright requires effort, as if gravity has shifted slightly toward the cliff. Looking at the guardrail creates a pull behind the eyes, a quiet insistence to move closer. Those who approach the barrier often stop just short of touching it. An instinct warns them not to lean too far forward. The darkness beyond does not behave like empty space. It feels dense, layered, as though depth itself has become distorted. Several individuals have described a sensation of being gently invited. Not pushed, not threatened, but welcomed. The idea of stepping closer carries an unexpected calm. A promise of relief from tension and effort. Thoughts slow. Time feels stretched and thin. Rescue reports indicate that people who remain outside their vehicles too long struggle to turn back. Some are found standing inches from the guardrail, unable to explain why they stopped there. Others leave personal items behind, keys or phones placed neatly on the hood of the car, as if preparing for something intentional. Yet no one has ever described seeing anything beyond the edge. There are no lights below, no movement, no shapes rising from the dark. The pull comes from absence alone, from a space that offers nothing visible and somehow suggests everything. Local authorities discourage stopping along the drive after sunset. Signs warn of unstable ground and high winds, though inspections confirm the road is structurally sound. The warnings exist less to explain and more to discourage hesitation. Older residents tell quieter stories. Long before guardrails and pavement, the cliff was considered a boundary rather than a viewpoint. Fishermen avoided camping near it. Travelers followed paths set well inland. It was believed that the edge did not simply drop away, but opened. According to these accounts, the darkness beyond Hollow Edge Drive is not empty. It is unfinished. A place where land ends without conclusion, where direction loses meaning. To stand too close is to feel that uncertainty seep inward. Modern drivers may dismiss such ideas, yet the experiences persist. Even seasoned commuters admit to avoiding eye contact with the guardrail. They keep their gaze forward, their speed steady, their thoughts focused on reaching the far curve where the road widens again. They keep their gaze forward, their speed steady, their thoughts focused on reaching the far curve where the road widens again. Those who make it through describe a gradual return to normal sensation. The lanes feel wider. The air feels lighter. The cliff recedes into the background, no longer pressing against awareness. Looking back in the mirror shows nothing unusual, just a dark stretch of road bending away. By morning, Hollow Edge Drive reveals no sign of its nighttime influence. Sunlight restores depth and distance. The guardrail looks sturdy. The cliff looks far away. There is no indication that the road ever narrows or pulls. Yet the pattern remains. Each year, reports surface of drivers who stopped and never returned to their cars. No evidence suggests a fall or struggle. Just vehicles parked neatly along the shoulder, doors closed, engines cold. Hollow Edge Drive continues to serve its purpose, carrying traffic along the cliff as it always has. But those who know it well understand one rule. Do not stop. Keep moving. And if the darkness beyond the guardrail feels closer than it should, trust the road ahead, not the space beside it. Tucked along the remote northern coast of Washington state lies a gravel access road known only as Final Descent Road. It does not appear on state transportation maps. No signage marks its beginning. It starts unassumingly off a Forest Service route winding downward through dense coastal spruce and hemlock. The drive is quiet. The trees lean inward as if closing ranks behind the vehicle. And then after exactly 2.3 miles the road ends. At a weathered iron gate. Rusted but sturdy. Chains wrapped twice around the posts. A simple padlock hangs open though no one claims to have unlocked it. The gate itself bears no markings. No property signs. No warnings. Just iron bars spaced wide enough to glimpse what lies beyond. Darkness. And sound. The steady rhythmic crash of ocean waves. Most drivers stop here. Turn back. The gate feels like a boundary not just physical but symbolic. Yet over the years a consistent pattern has emerged. Some report arriving to find the gate slightly ajar. Not swung wide. Just enough to suggest movement. As if responding to their presence. One fisherman described it as the gate breathing. Opening just enough to let the sea air through. Never enough to invite passage. No one has driven beyond it. Not officially. Not and returned with proof. Those who have considered it speak of an overwhelming hesitation. Not fear exactly. More like reverence. A sense that crossing would be a choice with consequences no map could prepare for. The road surface beyond the gate remains visible for a short distance. Gravel. Smooth. Undisturbed. Then it dips downward into mist and shadow. The sound of waves grows louder the closer one approaches on foot. Yet satellite imagery shows only steep cliffs and open water beyond the ridge. No continuation. No hidden cove. Just empty Pacific. State surveyors attempted to map the area in the early 2000s. Ground teams reached the gate but found their GPS units failing within 50 feet of it. Compass needles spun slowly as if caught in a weak magnetic field. When they tried to walk the visible stretch beyond the barrier, their altimeters registered a steady descent over 200 feet in less than 300 yards. Yet when they looked back, the gate appeared higher than when they left it. As if the land itself had shifted beneath them. They retreated. The data was inconclusive. The project quietly shelved. Local lore offers gentle theories. Elders from nearby coastal communities speak of the Veil Patha, a concept not of haunting but of transition. A place where the boundary between the known world and the deep quiet beyond grows thin. They do not call it dangerous. They call it sacred. In the 1940s, a lighthouse tender would leave small bundles of dried kelp and cedar boughs at the gate each winter solstice. Not as offering but as acknowledgement. He never explained why. He simply said the sea remembers those who listen. Modern visitors often pause here at dusk. Some leave stones stacked in small cairns along the fence line. Others sit quietly in their cars with windows down, just listening. The sound of the waves never changes. It does not grow louder with proximity nor fade with distance. It remains constant. As if the ocean is not outside the gate but within it. As if the road does not lead to the sea but into a memory of it. There are no reports of disappearances. No emergency calls. No evidence of trespass. Only consistent accounts of the gate moving when no wind blows. Of headlights catching a glimpse of wet gravel beyond the bars glistening as if recently washed. Of a faint salt scent lingering in the car long after the drive home. What makes Final Descent Road so compelling is not what lies ahead but what it asks of those who arrive. A question not spoken aloud but felt in the chest. Are you here to find something? Or to let something go? The gate does not bar the way permanently. It opens just enough to remind us that some roads are not meant to be finished. Some journeys are complete the moment you understand why you stopped. And sometimes the most profound destinations are not places you reach but thresholds you choose not to cross. Thank you for driving with me along the haunted coastal cliff roads of California. These roads were built to connect places. But some of them connect far more than towns. They link past and present. Life and death. The living world and whatever waits beyond the fog. If you ever find yourself driving California's cliffs after dark, remember these stories. If the fog thickens suddenly, slow down. If you see someone standing too close to the edge, do not stop. And if your car feels like it wants to turn on its own, fight it. Rest well tonight, my friend. And may the road behind you always stay empty.